Hello, everyone. We are live for a new episode of Stash Chats. So, today I'm going to be joined by Rachel, who is stitched up on YouTube. Ooh. Sorry, I'm getting an echo of myself now, which is really weird. Um, Let me go back to this microphone and see if I'm still going to get that. Oh, wait. Okay, let's try again. I think it's because I had the chat open in another tab, so that's why I was hearing myself back. Anyway, a few more people have joined now. Sorry about the confusion there. Welcome to Stash Chat. Today I'm going to be chatting to Rachel, who is stitched up on YouTube and Rach stitched up on Instagram about her lovely stash. So do drop your questions and comments in the comments box so that we know that you're watching and so that we know what you want to find out from Rachel as well. So I'm just going to bring Rachel in now. So hello, Rach. Thanks for
Hi. Hi, Yvette. Thanks for
joining.
having me.
Lovely to have you. Yeah, sorry about that. It was a bit of a weird start. I was like, why do I hear myself? But I just, yeah, anyway, how's it all going?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, I'm really good, really good. After having the 100-day cold that everybody seems to
Oh
have
my
had over
gosh.
Christmas. I know.
Yeah, everyone's so sickly, aren't
Yeah,
they? Oh,
absolutely.
we've got Ruan in the chat. Hello, Ruan.
Hi, Rowan.
Yeah, Ruan's a fellow Stash Chats alumni. You can
She
catch up on
is.
Ruan's episode. And
Absolutely.
Already Stitch Sew is back. Hello. So, do you want to kick us off, Rach, by just telling us like a bit about your sewing story and how you got into sewing?
Okay, well, I guess I've been sewing about 10 years now, I think. Oh, it's coming up to 10 years this year, which is just crazy. And the reason I started, I mean, my children are grown up now, but when they were little, for everybody that's got children out there, you know what it's like when they come home from school and it's like, Mum, I need this outfit and I need it for tomorrow. And so I did buy a little sewing machine from Argos, I think, many, many moons ago, and used to sort of rustle up, I don't know, little kids' outfits from any old curtains and things that I used to have in the house, and they would always be rubbish because that little sewing machine did not work very well at all. And then I never really took to it, and I think that was because the equipment that I had just wasn't very good. And then when my daughter turned 15, she had this thing where she wanted me to make her prom dress for her for when she finished school. So which was obviously going to be the following year. So I said, well, I'm going to have to learn to sew then. And yeah, that's basically how I started. So I bought myself a new sewing machine, a Janome, a little Janome. It was a computerized one. I think it was about £150, something like that. So it was a step up from the original one that I had. And I just had a look online because I didn't want to go for the old Big Four patterns at the time. I remember many years ago when I was at school and I did do domestic science or whatever it was called back then, of which sewing was part of that. I did do a little bit of that when I was about 13 at school. And again, I didn't really take to it because the teacher was just awful. She was really strict and I could never I couldn't even thread the machine. It was a nightmare. And I remember those patterns back then because we didn't have indie patterns then. It was all the big four. And I just remember them being so difficult to use. So when I came back to this, when my daughter was 15, I thought I'm just going to avoid those and have a look online and see if there's a simple pattern that I can follow. And I think I found Tilly and the Buttons. She'd only just started then. I think there'd been the first series of the Great British Sewing Bee, but I hadn't seen it. I had not watched it. But obviously I found her online following that, and I made the cocoa dress. That was it. That was one of the first things I made. And I mean, I'm nearly 5'10", and I didn't even think about the fact that you have to lengthen and shorten dresses I just thought at the time, you make a pattern as it is and it's going to fit you. And I had no idea that you had to alter them or anything. So I made this cocoa dress, and it was very short, shall we say. But I was so proud of it because I found her instructions were brilliant. As a new sewer, as a beginner sewer, I mean, I think we all know that, don't we, that Tilly's very good at that. And yeah, so I learned to sew. I spent a good, I would say, 8 to 10 months just learning to sew and trying all sorts of different things. And I never had a fear of it really, because I thought, you know, at the end of the day, it's only fabric. I used to buy really cheap, inexpensive fabrics just to practice on, because obviously if it went wrong or it didn't fit, I'd not wasted loads of money. And yeah, and then I ended up having a go at my daughter's prom dress. And again, we worked together on it. We chose patterns that were fairly, that I felt would be within my skill set as to what I'd advanced to at that time, which was still very beginnerish. And I remember it was just like a fitted bodice, a fitted darted bodice with no sleeves in, and then a gathered skirt. It was a very simple design really, but it had an overlay of chiffon, which, you know, as a beginner sewer is not an easy fabric to work with at all. And I did a rolled hem on it, which was, looking back, was diabolical, but she loved it. She absolutely loved this dress. And yeah, so that's where it all started really. I just really enjoyed it. You know, because I'm a nurse and my job is very stressful, I found it a real good relief from the stresses of working life to totally switch off. And yeah, found this hobby that I loved. And also, because I'm tall and I've got long arms, and I always had difficulty getting clothes to fit me properly. I loved maxi dresses, but they were never maxi on me when I'd buy them from the shops, etc. They're always, you know, a lot shorter, and sleeves were always too short, etc. So learning to sew just opened up that world of being able to make things to fit me. And yeah, it just all stemmed from there. It just snowballed really. So yes, as did the
Amazing.
stash.
Yeah. So with your daughter's prom dress, do you
Mm.
know like why she specifically like really wanted you to make it? Was it due to like sizing, or she had a specific idea in mind, or she just really like believed in you and was like, you can do this, let's go?
Yeah, I think, do you know, I think it was probably just because she just I think it was just something that she thought we could do together. And I think she, you know, I mean, she was 15. I think a lot of girls of that age are not very confident in how they look. And I think she had ideas of what she wanted, and we spent a lot of time going over designs, because some of the designs that she wanted, I just thought there is no way I can fit this on her. I just didn't have that kind of skill at the time. So it was very much a case of working together to find a design that she really liked, but also that I was capable of achieving for her in a way that it was going to come out and look okay. So I think she just really wanted something unique. She didn't want something off the peg. And I think she just wanted something made with love for her really. You
Yeah,
know, I
that's
think,
really sweet.
yeah, it was a way of us sort of getting a bit closer together, I think. So it was a lovely experience. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing it, and it was a very special dress really. Yeah.
That's good as well that she
Mm.
gave you a good time frame to like work up to it as
Yeah,
well. She didn't demand it the
absolutely.
week before.
I know, yeah, which definitely was an improvement from what they did at school. Yeah, absolutely. I think that was more me than anything else, because she just said, "Oh, you know, I really want you to make my prom dress," and I thought, well, I really need to start learning to sew now. Then, I mean, she's nearly 25 now, and she often talks about when she gets married, and she still has this idea that she wants me to make a wedding dress now, which obviously is a massive step up from a prom dress. And for a long time I said absolutely not, and I'm sort of coming around to the idea now, not that she's getting married anytime soon, but yeah, I've come around to the idea. I think I could probably manage it now, dependent on what she'd want. So yeah,
Exciting.
yeah,
So shall we get into the stash? So do you want
yes.
to just tell us about your stash?
Okay, so well, yeah, the stash, I mean, I never planned to have a big stash. It just sort of evolved, I guess, over the years. And I think, you know, looking back, I mean, things have definitely changed with respect to the types of fabrics that I'll buy now compared to back then. And I always went for fabrics that were below sort of £5 a metre, I guess, at the time, because I wanted to just, you know, learn to work with fabrics. And I didn't know what was what, and most of the places that I bought from were online, so I would see a print or see a fabric that looked nice online, and I didn't really know what the base was or how it handled, how it felt or anything, and would just buy it. And so I did end up with a lot of stuff that when it would come, I'd think, I'm not sure how I'm going to use this, or what I'm going to turn it into. And yeah, some of that has been destashed over the years. And as things have evolved, I'm, you know, obviously with 10 years of sewing behind me now, I'm quite familiar with most types of fabric bases now, so I can usually pick things that I know how it's going to handle and how I'm going to use it. So things have changed in that respect. But yeah, it's just meant over the years I've built this quite large stash that I mean, some of it's behind me here, but this is just a small portion of it really. And yeah, trying to work out how I'm going to use this within the lifetime that I have left is going to be a challenge, I think, definitely.
We've got a lot of love for your top in the chat, by the way,
Ah,
Rachel.
it's a dress actually. This is my Nomi dress. Yeah, I made the Nomi last week, so by Sew Over It. So it's just a jersey dress. This fabric is a modal jersey that I got from Pound Fabrics actually. So yeah, it's really nice. Love it. It's really cozy.
Nice. Yeah, Sue just popped in the chat. It's a modal jersey from Pound Fabric. So clearly Sue's been watching
Yeah.
your videos and keeping up to
Yes.
date with your latest
I think
makes.
she must have been. Yeah, absolutely. It's
Excellent.
the first time I've made this pattern actually, and it's nice. Then this fabric's really, really suitable for it because it's quite a heavyweight fabric, but it's still got a lot of drape. So yeah, it's really nice. Really like it.
Did you end up changing the length at all? Because everyone says it's really long, but obviously you're quite tall.
Yeah, I'd heard that it was very long, and when you look at the pattern image, actually, it does actually really come down to the floor on the model on the image. But when I was planning this dress, I knew that the feedback was that it was extremely long, and that I probably wouldn't need to lengthen it. But I did lengthen the bodice by about 1.5 inches, and yeah, I've got quite a long torso, so I generally have to lengthen bodices anyway. And the Sew Over It block is a little bit short on me anyway. So yeah, I did 1.5 inches, and that's hit me quite nicely. And then 1 inch to the sleeves as well, I added. But the rest of it, I didn't need to. But I have put quite a deep hem on it. It's probably about a good 2 inch hem, and it hits me just to the top of my feet. So yeah, it's quite a
Wow.
long dress. This, yeah.
So Emma says, "What's your oldest piece of fabric?"
I've got it here actually. I went
Oh,
rooting around in my
prepared.
stash. I mean, there's a lot of fabrics that I have now destashed, obviously, because I think when I started sewing, I don't know if other people have done this, but I was always drawn to the wacky prints, the really wacky novelty stuff. And I think when I started, I wanted to make all the sort of 50s style dresses and things, and would buy all these really crazy prints in cotton poplins and things, and quickly sort of realized that actually, I mean, I did make a couple of those types of dresses and I would try them on. They weren't very well made, but you know, I was so proud of them in the beginning. But then I'd put them on and think, where am I going to wear this? Because it just didn't really fit into my lifestyle. So all those kinds of prints now have long gone. But there are a few, when I sort of moved away from the novelty style fabrics, there are a few other bits and pieces that I've still got in my stash. And I've got this one, which is a cotton poplin.
Oh
And
wow.
it always gave me sort of like a, I don't know, like a bit of a oriental type vibe to it. I don't know why, but it's like, it's just a navy base with these gorgeous flowers on. And I think there's about 2.5 meters here, but it's quite narrow. So yeah, this has been in my stash since the early days, and I still have it in flat fabric form. Still no idea what to make with it, because I generally don't really sew with cotton anymore. Just because it's quite, you know, it's quite structured, isn't it? And I like the drapey things now. Generally, that's the type of stuff I like to wear. So I'm sure it could be, I don't know, pajamas or a blouse, a shirt or something like that. But yeah, that's probably the oldest piece I've got left in my stash, and I won't destash it because I do love it. It's just trying to figure out what to make with it.
Is it metallic or is it just the
No,
light?
it's not metallic. It looks it, doesn't it, on screen,
Yeah.
but it's not. No, it's there's no sort of shininess to it at all. It's just it's just the print, just the color of the print. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Ruan says that's gorgeous. You need to get that made up. And Emma
Yeah, you need to give me
suggested
some
using it
ideas.
for So Frugal.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you need a pattern that doesn't break up the print too much though, because it's quite a large
It
scale.
is. Yeah, this is the thing. And I mean, I've brought another one actually that is another one that's been in my stash for a long time, very much since the early days. This one is a cotton sateen, but it's not, well, I'm saying it's a sateen. It's only got a very mild shine to it. But this one has got a really big print on it. It's
Oh
like a
wow.
panel print. And I love it. It's very summery, but it's like this print is so big. I don't know what to make with it or how I would wear it. Yeah. So again, this one's been in my stash for years, and it's got, it's very stretchy. Well, it's not that stretchy, but it's got some stretch to it. So yeah, I don't know what I would do with that one either, but it's just such a lovely print. And I think this is the thing. Sometimes we're drawn to these fabrics with these amazing prints on, and then it's a case of then trying to figure out how you're going to make it up, what you're going to make it into, and how to wear it. And I think something like this, like you say, in a pattern that's not broken up, so maybe just like a simple shift dress or something, but shift dresses aren't really my thing. It's not the
Yeah.
kind of thing I tend to wear. So, and I think that's how not just my stash has evolved over the years, but how my style has as well, where I've tried different types of things, different patterns, different shapes, etc., to figure out what suits me and what I like to wear and what I feel most comfortable in. And so the fabrics that I tend to buy now are a lot more considered, and that I think about, yeah, that's the kind of thing I'll wear in this particular pattern because I know I'll like to wear that and get the most out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, we've got a couple of suggestions for a statement dressing gown with that white fabric with the big flower on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the back, it would look great, wouldn't it? As a panel on the back of a dressing
Yeah.
gown. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know, thinking back when I bought this, I don't know what I thought I was going to make it into at the time. I think at the time I used to buy fabrics just because I'd be drawn to them like a magpie and think, oh, that's gorgeous, I must have it. And then it would just go into the stash because I'd get it and think, oh yeah, that's beautiful, and I think, what am I going to make with it? And so that's why to a degree in those early years I ended up with a stash full of fabrics, thinking I don't know what to make with these. Whereas now, as I say, I think a bit more about what I'm buying. So in relation not just to the pattern and the print, but also how much of each particular fabric I'll buy as to what I'm going to make with it.
So what's your sort of go-to amount if you're not sure what you're going to make with a fabric? How much do you buy?
I tend to I tend to go 3 to 4 meters, but again, it will depend on the print, because when I'm looking at, most of the time I'm looking at a fabric thinking I want to make a dress because I love wearing dresses. Having said that, in winter I tend to be more separates because I like my jeans and a jumper and that kind of thing to keep warm. But in spring and summer I love wearing dresses. So for most sort of viscose type fabrics or drapey fabrics, I will go for a sort of 3 to 4 meters, I guess. But again, if it's a print that I like, but I think it's really out there and probably a bit too much for a dress, then I'll probably just get a couple of meters and think I'll make a blouse or a shirt or something out of it. So sometimes it depends on the print, but generally I'll go for 3 to 4 meters.
Nice.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us a bit about your destashing process? Because you've destashed quite a lot of fabric recently. Like
Yeah.
how did you find that?
Yeah. I think initially I knew I needed to do it because it had just got overwhelming. And originally my sewing room, and I know that I'm very lucky to have a sewing room, but my sewing space was, when my daughter moved out, my son moved into her old bedroom, and so I had his whole old bedroom free. So we turned that into a sewing space. And that became my sewing room. And then it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago that my daughter mentioned about turning what we're in now, which is actually my old dining room, into my sewing room. And then so I could be downstairs and with the family a bit more when I'm sewing, which I thought was a really good idea. So that's what we did. We turned this into the new sewing room. But it sort of ended up where I had two, because I still had stuff in the room upstairs and then also things down here as well. And quite quickly, I would say, the old sewing space upstairs became another sewing stash. And yeah, I think it was probably the last 18 months or so, I thought, this is just getting out of hand now and I need to really work through it. And especially because my daughter's had a baby, so I've got a granddaughter now, and she comes to stay, and at the minute she's in a travel cot, but within the next couple of years she's going to be in a bed and we're going to need that room for her. So I thought, I really need to sort this stuff out. So yeah, it was a to be honest, it was a conversation with Ruan. She was really good at trying to help me look at this in little blocks of fabrics, rather than looking at the whole thing thinking this is just a massive job. She sort of said, just pick a few at a time, just pick 10 fabrics, have a look through them, and think immediately which ones do you definitely want to keep, and then the others which you're not quite sure about, and work through it bit by bit. And that's what I did. And part of that process as well was getting my colours done as well, so that I could look at what fabrics make the most of my skin tone and everything else, and then that would help me immediately sort of look at the fabrics in my stash and think, right, that really doesn't make the most of my features, etc. That is not in my color palette at all. So that really helped me initially. And so it was definitely a process, and I'm not there yet. I mean, I have destashed an awful lot of fabrics, but there's still a long way to go. But now things are very tidy and everything is in its space. I know exactly what I've got, where it all is, and I've got a bedroom back upstairs, which is amazing. And I'm now ready to start working through it again, because I think the first part of that process was really just to be quite brutal and think, I'm really never going to wear this made up. As much as I like the fabric in its fabric form, made up into something, am I going to wear it? Is it something that is going to fit in my wardrobe and fit into my lifestyle? And so I did a yes it will, no it won't, and the no's it won't got destashed. So it worked really well. But as I say, I've got to start working through it all again now. So that's going to be another long process, I think, over the next few months.
Did you find when you got your colours done, that were you surprised with the results, or were you like, yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking, but it confirms that for me?
Yeah, I think it's funny because especially having a YouTube channel where you get people commenting, and over the years when I've shown what I've made out of various different fabrics, and people have been really kind on the whole, where they've been very constructive and said, oh, that color really really suits you. And sometimes when I've made something and I've put it on and I've really liked it, but then when I've looked back at myself on screen wearing it, I've thought, actually, I'm not really sure. It's really strange when you do that. It's things look different when you look at yourself in real life as to what they do on screen. So quite often, if I'd made something and then when I'd seen myself in it on screen and thought, I'm not sure, and a couple of people would say the same thing, oh, I'm not sure about that, Rachel, on you. And I did tend to agree with them. So that in itself was really eye-opening, to be able to actually, along the way, sort of learn about the colours that really did work for me as opposed to the ones which didn't. And the feedback from people that watched my channel really helped with that. So I think when I got my colours done, I did have a bit of an inkling of where I would fall. I knew that I was definitely in the cool palette rather than the warm, but I wasn't really sure what season. So it wasn't a complete surprise. But I mean, I still sort of think that at the end of the day, we want to wear the fabrics and clothes that we like, don't we? And I think having your colours done is great to sort of help you look at some fabrics and think, whereas previously I would think I really love that. I mean, for instance, the autumnal sort of palette, as in your, you know, your mustards and your rusts and those, I love those colors, but they don't suit me. They don't work with my skin tone. So it's made me think more about, I'm not going to just buy those coloured fabrics anymore. I might occasionally, because I think, you know, I can still wear them. If you wear them like on your bottom half, for instance, it's away from your face, then I can still fit that kind of thing into my wardrobe. But overall, I would probably try and avoid those types of fabrics now, those colour fabrics, because I'll go more for the cool ones. So it has helped in that way, but and it wasn't a complete surprise. So yeah, it's been good to do that.
It's given you that sense of direction, like with your
Yeah,
buying, and also making decisions easier as well on the
yeah,
destashing.
yeah.
Yeah, Sue says she loves the two pieces that they got from your destash. So, you know, they've gone to a good home.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there were a few fabrics in there that I destashed that I really didn't want to let go of, but you know, and these were fabrics that I would say I'd bought fairly recently, as in the last sort of year or so as well. And but once I'd had my colours done, and when I was being brutal with my destash, I thought, no, I'm just gonna, you know, let these go to somebody that's really gonna love them, and you know, it's going to work for them better than it will for me. So yeah, it's been a good learning curve.
Did you find you felt like a really good sense of like satisfaction and like a weight was lifted when you kind of reclaimed that room and got through all that
Absolutely.
destashing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was one of those. I mean, this is the thing when you have a bedroom, or an old bedroom, should I say, as a sewing space. In one, on the one hand, it's great because you can shut the door on it and walk away, and you're not having to see it all the time when you're at home. But on the other hand, it can be a bit of a devil in disguise as well, because there have been occasions where I've bought the same fabric twice, and I've looked at something and thought, I'm sure I've got this somewhere, but I had no idea where. And that's kind of embarrassing, really. But now it's a real joy going in there, because everything is neat and tidy, everything is in its space, and yeah, it's a lot more pleasurable to go in and look at the stash. Just means though, because I getting it all on Stash Hub is still going to be a job and a half for me. That's going to take some time to do.
Have to do that in stages as
Yeah.
well, or just do it per project, like as
Yes.
you're sewing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thready Stitch Sew said, what's your favourite colour to wear off the back of your colour analysis?
Mm. Um, I would say throughout the time I've been sewing, my favourite colour to wear is probably pink. Um, but I go through different phases of what I like. I'm going through a purple phase at the minute. I mean, purple is my favourite colour, and I never used to like wearing it though. It's a colour I love, but I didn't like wearing it at all. And then this last sort of 8 months or so, I'm really loving the sort of purple hues. And yeah, so I'm sort of tending to veer towards those of them. I mean, there's a lot of purple in this, but yeah, the pinks. I love the pinks. Yeah, really love the pinks.
Nice. Mel said, is there anything you're looking forward to making for your granddaughter?
Well, she's got her, I mean, it's her first birthday at the end of March, and I think my daughter wants me to make her another first birthday dress. We've not sort of really discussed patterns or fabrics yet or anything, but yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. I made her a dress at Christmas, and I made it out of a taffeta. It was like an olive green taffeta that I got from Rainbow Fabrics, and it was lovely. I mean, they're quite fiddly. Making babies' dresses are really fiddly, and there was a lot of gathering in this dress, but it was, yeah, to see her in it was just such a joy. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
That sounds really cute.
Yeah.
So now that you've got all your stash like tidied up, what's
Mm.
your system? Have you done it like by colours or fibres?
Yeah, upstairs, I mean, down here still needs to be worked through, really, because the priority was to do the room upstairs. So upstairs, I've got more calyx units like this, and it's in fibres really. So I've got some fabrics that I will use for my granddaughter that are all in one of the little cubes of the Calyx unit. So hers are in one specific place, and then the rest of the cubes are ordered in types of fabric base. So I've got the viscoses, and then I've got like the lighter weight jerseys, and then the heavier weight jerseys, and then the cotton lawns, trouser weight fabrics, that kind of thing. Cords are together, linens are together. Gosh, it sounds like a shop, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But I suppose it is
it
a
is
shop,
just
really.
your own personal shop.
My own personal shop. But yeah, that's how I've tended to order it. I would love to, when I go through this process again and work through it all again, I would love to order it in sort of fabrics that I'll use in the spring summer months, and then the ones that I'll probably use in the autumn winter. Because I know there was this thing on Instagram the other week about that we shouldn't be sort of put into those boxes where we think we have to go for the dark colours in autumn winter and the brighter colours in spring and summer, and I totally agree with that. But I think we all tend, I don't know, I still tend to look at a fabric and think, would I wear that in autumn and winter? And that's how I'm going to sort of approach it, I think. So still have them in sort of fabric base order, but then look at which fabrics I probably will choose more to wear it with the seasons, and try and order it a bit better like that. I think that's the plan.
It gives you more of a chance to like rotate the fabrics as well and not
Yeah,
feel guilty like about not sewing a fabric that
yeah,
season. You can be like, well, this is in the, you know, the winter pile, so I don't have to think about
yeah,
that for the next 6 months. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a good plan.
absolutely, absolutely. So we'll see how it goes anyway.
So how do you like to shop now after or you've got all your information from your destashing and
Mm.
everything? What's your approach?
Um, I, gosh, well, I am trying really hard to only buy fabric with a purpose. So instead of buying fabric thinking, I love this, I need it in my stash before it sells out, I look at something and think, what would I make out of it? So I have to have a project in mind. So that's generally my plan now. So I'm looking more towards the projects that I want to make, the gaps I've got in my wardrobe, the things I like to wear and the things that I want to wear, and then choose patterns that work within that, and then fabrics that will work with that particular pattern. And if there isn't anything in my, I mean, I'm sure there probably would be something in my stash, but if there isn't anything that I think, I don't know, I mean, yeah, I'm always browsing the fabric shops, always. Yeah, most of the time online, because there aren't really many around where I live. But so most of it tends to be done online, so I'm always looking at the fabric shops online to see what they've got, and if there's something that I really like, then I will still buy it. I think, I've tried in the past to put myself on fabric buying bans. It just doesn't work. So, but I made myself a bit of a sort of deal before Christmas, where I said to myself, for every one fabric I buy, I have to destash, I think it was another five or six fabrics. So that I'm always, just taking it down a bit. So yeah, that's the general feeling of how I approach my fabric buying now. But it's not worked 100% of the time, but because I
Still
think,
too much temptation.
oh yeah, absolutely, there is. Yeah, this is the thing, because there's just so many beautiful fabrics now, and I think we're so spoiled with how things have changed, certainly, and even in the time I've been sewing, so many fantastic small independent businesses have come out now that are getting access to such beautiful things, and it's just so tempting, isn't it? That's the difficult thing.
There's new stuff all the time and
Mm,
exclusive ranges.
yeah, absolutely.
So Thready Steady Stitch said, as an estimate, how many fabrics and patterns do you think you've got?
Oh gosh. Um, I don't know if I dare say, if I'm honest. Patterns, I would say. I mean, if we're talking physical paper patterns, I do have a lot of the big four, but I've tended the last couple of years. I've not really made much from them. Most of it has been indie patterns. So I think the physical paper patterns I've got, I would probably say I've got about 200. And then obviously I've got all my PDFs as well of a lot of the indie designers, which I have no idea how many of those I've got, to be honest, because they're all obviously on my computer. When it comes to fabrics, I would say, I mean, thinking about how many I destashed, I must have destashed probably 400, I would think.
Oh, wow.
I know, I saw your eyes go really big then.
And they were going to say 40, and then he's a 400.
No,
I was, oh.
honestly, I think I must have destashed so many fabrics. But I would say I probably have well over 1,000 fabrics still.
Definitely a shop you've got there then.
Yeah, definitely. Probably even more than that, I would think. And I think this is why it's, you know, it's going to be a real eye-opener putting all this on Stash Up. I was looking at it earlier today, you know, the bit where you can look at where it gives you all the graphs and things and the little pie charts.
Your stats.
I know, your stats, and it said something like, do you really want to look at this? And I thought, that'll be interesting when I get all this on there. That will probably really shock me.
Yeah, that's the amount spent, which is the thing that's like, you don't have to look at this. We'll just cover this over if you don't want to know.
But the interesting thing is, there are still 2 or 3 people that follow me on YouTube that have actually said, your stash is small compared to mine. So I would love to have a rummage in theirs and see what they've got. Yeah. There was a lady actually on Sunday. I did my sewing social on Sunday, and one of the ladies that came to my social, she hasn't been before. It was her first time, and we were chatting about stashes, and she was talking about hers, and she's been collecting fabrics since the 70s. And she's putting them all on. She's used a Stash Hub as well. She's putting them all on Stash Hub, and she's put about 400 on there already. And so she was showing me them, and she's got some amazing fabrics, some like Laura Ashley ones from the 70s and stuff. It was incredible for her to still have that. It's really interesting looking at other people's stashes when they've got stuff that goes that far back. It's amazing.
It must get really difficult to sew them though, because I feel like the longer you have a fabric, the more sort of like precious it gets. So then you're there like, oh gosh.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you know, a lot of those things they'd be so rare, won't they? And it's really difficult to try and find anything like that again. So yeah, definitely. I mean, my mum never sewed, so I don't come from a family of people that sewed. I think my grandmothers probably did. I do remember as a child seeing the old Singer sewing machines in their houses, but I've never had anything passed down really in that respect. So yeah, I do think it's really interesting seeing some of this really old vintage fabrics that some people must still have. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sue. Sue says Stash Hub is worth every penny. That's really nice.
It really is. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's just a job to put everything on. I think what I'm doing now is every new fabric that comes in, I will put on there straight away and then slowly work through the older stuff. I think that's probably my best plan for it.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to work through it. Because also if you're buying mostly stuff online, you can do magic input. So then it just puts all the information in.
Yeah.
So I suppose if you've got fabrics that are more recent ones that are still available online, you could do that. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will really help me to avoid duplication as well. That's where I've gone wrong in the past, where I've, you know, bought things again.
Yeah. Or even things that are like really similar as well. I found like sometimes when I was scrolling my stash, I had 2 that were where I was like, oh, I must have put this one in twice. And then I was like, no, I've just got 2 fabrics that are like the exact same colours. It's like at least my taste is consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was looking through my stash today to pick out one that's really precious to me. And there's a couple actually that I thought I'd share and show you. So this one is a Liberty silk that my husband bought me. about 4 years ago, and
Wow.
it's just beautiful. And I mean, this is probably the most expensive fabric I've got in my stash. And he got me 3 meters of this, because the plan that I was going to do with this was to make I mean, I know it's silk, but to make a dressing gown with it and line it with, like, I don't know, line it with something just to make it a bit warmer so that I can wear it all year round. But yeah, I've had this about 4 years now, and I'm still too scared to cut into it because it's Liberty and it's silk. So
That's really beautiful.
yeah, yeah. So that's probably the most precious one I've got in my stash. I'm not used to sewing with silk, really.
You could get some practice in.
I know, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you have another like precious one that you're going to show us?
Yeah, I've got a couple of Dolce and Gabbana ones as well.
Oh, fancy.
I know these are both silks as well. And again, I mean, this one is, I don't know if you can see
Oh,
that. So it's
wow.
like, yeah, it's like this is silk, and it's quite semi sort of sheer. And I'd planned just to make a very simple sort of top with this loose fit top. But again, I just don't want to cut into it because it's just too nice. And then the other one is, again, it's another Dolce and Gabbana one. I think I got this from Selvage and Bolts, and it's just so beautiful. Really pretty.
That's really pretty.
Yeah. So this is a silk cotton blend. So yeah, really pretty. But again, I don't want to cut into it.
You'll have to find a nice occasion, I reckon, to like motivate you.
I know. It's daft, really, isn't it? That we've got these gorgeous fabrics that we buy and they just sit in the stash in fabric form, and we need to make them up, don't we, and wear them. But I think I get these nice fabrics like this, and I love them so much that I think I don't want to make a mistake and make the wrong thing and then wish I'd made something else with it. And so it ends up still sat in fabric form forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruan says the silks would make lovely kimono style overshirts.
Yeah, that's really sort of the kind of thing I was thinking. Just, something with no break, sort of no, just very loose fit, sort of kimono style top, drapey with no darts or anything, just something really simple, just to show off the print would just be amazing. So yeah,
you don't want to break it up too much and have
no,
something nice and wafty and luxurious.
I know, yeah, just for walking along the beach or something, it would be so nice. Yeah,
have to book a really nice holiday and then you can sew up all your fabrics. You'll be like, oh well, I'll have to sew this silk because it will be so light in the suitcase.
Yeah.
So what are you working on right now, Rachel? Have you got any projects on the go?
Well, I have been working on a dress, and I've made it's the first time I've made it, actually. It's the Heidi dress by Sew Over It, which is like it's a wrap dress, and it's got a yoke with like gathers into the yoke and gathers at the waist, and then it wraps, ties, and it's got a frill around the bottom. So I've just been working on that this last few days, and I've just got to hem it now, and then it's more or less done. And then the next one I'm going to do, I think, is I want to have a go at the Hazelwood by Tessuti. This one.
Oh, nice.
So I've made
nice
them
and cozy.
Yeah, I've made the Monroe top, which is one of their. It's a free pattern of theirs, and the Monroe is sort of a grown-on sleeve, whereas this one is a set-in sleeve. And the Monroe, I've just found that the sleeves are just really tight, so I'm hoping that one's going to fit a little bit better. So yeah, at the minute I'm still all about the cozies, really, because it's not, we're just in that sort of transitional stage, really, aren't we, where it's sort of I want to start making for spring, but we're not quite there yet. So
yeah, I feel like this period of the winter always feels like so long, because like Christmas is really just the start of winter in the
Yeah.
UK, and
Yeah.
then it's January and all the lights and the festivities gone,
Yeah.
everything's so grey and
Yeah.
cold, and you're just like, I'm ready for this to be over now. And then it's like 3 more months
I
until
know.
it
I
becomes
know.
nice.
I
But
know. But
yeah.
then I'm thinking all the gorgeous shops are all going to be selling the beautiful viscoses again, and I really don't need any more temptation because I've still got so many that I need to sew up. That's the thing. So yeah, so I'm going to make that next. I haven't chosen a fabric yet for it, but I just want some simple sort of high neck jersey jumpers that I can just throw on with my jeans, as I say, because in the winter, as much as I love wearing dresses like this, I do tend to gravitate towards separates, wanting to wear jeans and just a chunky top, really. So just to keep cozy. So yeah, I'm not quite out of the cozy sweater stage yet, I guess,
Yep,
this year.
it's the season for it. Ruan
Definitely.
says, what's your favourite cloth base to wear?
Um, Probably, well, there's two actually that are my absolute favourites. I love viscose twill, and viscose linen viscose, because I love viscose, but sometimes some viscoses can be just a little bit lightweight, whereas I think the viscose twills and the linen viscoses are just that bit heavier, but they've still got plenty of drape, and they're just so versatile for most patterns that I like to wear, because I do like the floaty boho type dresses, you know, with the frills and the gathers and whatnot. Those are kind of my style at the minute, really, what I love to wear. So, and those fabrics tend to work with those. So yeah, I love those bases. Absolutely love them.
Yeah.
I love, like, you know, the Tencels and the Cupros. I love the feel of them, but every time I've made them up into something, I don't like wearing it as much. I don't know why. I think it's because they don't have a lot of give in them, do they? And I tend to like to wear garments that are made with fabrics that do have a little bit of give in them. I just think they're comfier. So
Yeah.
when the viscose twills and the linen viscoses always tend to have that little bit of mechanical stretch in them, whereas the Tencels don't. So yeah, so I do love the Tencels. I think they're beautiful fabrics, but the things I've made with those up to press haven't always been that successful, shall we say. So yeah, so I think I would say they're my favorites, and I've got tons of those in my stash. There's so many, you know, I've seen so many of the small businesses now that are, like you say, bringing out their own exclusive ranges, and they're using a lot more of the viscose twills and the linen viscoses as well, which is really nice, because there's just such lovely bases to work with. They're quite easy to sew as well. I think some of the viscoses I've got that are really lightweight can be a real devil to sew with, and I tend to use spray starch on them sometimes, because just to make them a bit easier to handle. But whereas the ones with the twill weave and the linen in as well, they're just a bit easier to sew with. So they're a good transition for people that haven't worked with the drapey fabrics, I think, to try before they go for the really shifty lightweight fabrics.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like as well with what doing things like the boho dresses and things with like the ruffles and all the
Mm,
lovely details,
mm,
it can be then really difficult to sew if you've got too much of a shifty fabric.
yeah,
So
yeah.
definitely having something a little bit weightier does help a lot.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. As I say, with some of the viscoses that I've worked with that are really lightweight, I will use spray starch. I find it does work quite well, because it's, especially when you cut, like you say, cutting the frills out, they tend to just end up out of shape so easily. And even stay stitching them, they can end up puckered, and it can be a nightmare, to be honest. So but it's just, yeah, it's just a case of the more you work with those kinds of fabrics, the more experienced you get with handling them. But yeah, sometimes I'll just try and make things as easy as I can for myself, and give them a spray with stay starch, and it makes them a bit more like a lightweight cotton. So
We're a bit less prone to doing whatever it wants and just slipping
yeah,
about.
absolutely. I always tend to find when you know, like with collar pieces, if you're trying to make a collared shirt out of viscose, and you know, you interface one piece and you don't the other, and I'll always find that the interfaced collar piece will be absolutely fine. And then the other one will be sort of 3 inches longer because it's just stretched out so much. So yeah, they can be difficult to work with, but they just look so beautiful made up.
So what is your favorite style of print to buy in fabrics?
Ooh, I think it's probably going to be the florals. I do love a floral. Having said that, there are some florals I don't like. I'm not so much. I like the bigger florals, and I like the ones with scattered prints rather than the ditzy prints. I'm not really a ditzy print girl, but yeah, the florals I do tend to like. I will sometimes go for the odd sort of geometric print, but it's not a design that I generally gravitate towards. And I'm not a huge animal print lover either. Rowan will be gasping at that because I know she is. But yeah, I'm for me personally, I do like this. There's some I do like, but I'm not always drawn to them. I do have a few animal prints in my stash, but it's not a print that I'm usually immediately drawn to. I tend to be a floral girl. Absolutely.
Ruan
Leaves.
says
Somebody
leaves
said
as well.
leaves. Yes, leaves. I mean, that goes with the florals, doesn't it? Yeah, I do love leaves as well. Yeah, the jungle prints, and yeah, yeah, I do love those, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like now I'm gonna have to really keep an eye out for next time you do a D-stash because I also love a larger scale floral. So you probably got a lot that's up my street in your stash
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, absolutely. I do have a lot of florals in my stash. Absolutely. I just like the romanticness of them, and yeah, they just work so well with the patterns that I love to wear. So
I
yeah.
think they're quite easy to like inject color into a floral
Yes.
design as well. And
Yeah,
also, depending on the way it's designed, it doesn't matter if you like cut it up too much. Like you don't
yeah,
have to pattern match because they're all
absolutely.
sort of irregular. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a big
And
fan of the florals.
yeah. And that's the thing with the geometric designs, isn't it? Like, I mean, tartans. I was making the paper theory pajamas at Christmas. I can't remember the name of them now. Agnes, that's it, the Agnes PJs. And I was using a brushed tartan, a red tartan, and trying to pattern match it it took me so long just to cut those pieces out. I mean, yeah, it's definitely worth it because it looks great if you can do it, but it's really hard work cutting those out. You don't get that with florals. You can just
Yeah.
cut them out. Although you do, dependent on the floral, sometimes you have to be careful where the blooms are highlighting on your body, shall we say. That's,
Yeah.
with some designs you do have to take that into account, absolutely. But yeah, generally it's fairly easy and straightforward to cut them out.
Yeah, excellent. I feel like cutting is quite a, I don't know, it's the one part of the sewing process that's not reversible because you
Yeah.
can unpick all the sewing, but if you mess up the cutting,
I
there's no
know.
going back from that. So
No,
you want to make your life easy for yourself.
definitely, yeah. um yeah, absolutely. I've made some serious mistakes at times with cutting out. In fact, I did it on a blouse that I made a couple of weeks ago. I made the Atelier Jupe, no, not Atelier Jupe, Atelier Brunette shirt. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's just called La Chemise, but it's got loads of gathers in it. It's a gorgeous shirt. I've made it before, and I chose a fabric out of my stash to make it again. It was when I went up to Sew Toon at Tamlin's Social in Newcastle. And so I thought, I want something fairly easy and straightforward that I've made before that I can make again, that I don't really have to think about too much. So I cut the pattern out, and I looked at the fabric before I cut it out, and I thought, yeah, this is directional. And immediately, on sort of first glance, it didn't look it, but then I thought, yeah, it is. So it was a floral pattern, a red and pink one. And it got stems on the flowers, you see, so that's how I knew it was directional. And then when I'd cut it all out, I realized that I'd cut the back upside down, and I thought, oh, why do I still make these mistakes? I mean, fortunately, because it was quite a small scale print, it wasn't ditzy, but quite a small scale print, because of the amount of gathering on the back, you couldn't really tell unless you were really close. And I thought, you know what, I'm not looking at my back, am I? I'm looking at the front when I'm looking at myself
Yeah.
in the mirror, so I can just get away with it. So, but yeah, sometimes I still make these mistakes. It's
It's
only
the sort of,
fabric at the end of the day.
it's the sort of thing that only you would notice as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
We've
absolutely.
we've got our last question, which is a real toughie from Sam. That says, if your house was on fire, which one of your fabrics would you save?
Oh, oh, wow. One fabric. Gosh. I think, well, it would probably have to be this Liberty one, I think, because, yeah, my husband bought me it and I don't know if they still do this design. So I think it would probably be this, if I'm honest. But I would be heartbroken. I really would be heartbroken. Yeah, if all this went up, it would be.
You put a lot of work into curating that collection.
It would be devastating, wouldn't it? Devastating. But
And also your insurance provider would be like, how much are you claiming
I
on
know.
fabric?
They just wouldn't understand, would they? They wouldn't
You'd just be like,
understand.
oh, let me refer you to my YouTube channel
Yeah,
and you'll understand. No,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it
With
would be
the
devastating.
with your Liberty Silk, did your husband choose it himself, or was it one that you'd had your eye on?
No. I chose it. No, he wouldn't have a clue. He wouldn't have a clue. Yeah, no, no, definitely not.
I was going to say I would be very, very impressed, but should have known, should have known. All right,
Oh,
amazing. I'm going to wrap it up there. But
okay.
thank you so much for joining us on Stash Chats, Rachel. It was really great to hear about your stash and your favorites and
Oh,
everything. So yeah, thank you so much for
thank you for
joining.
having
And
me. It's been really good fun. It's really
yeah,
nice
it's been
chatting
lovely
about
to have
fabric.
you. Yeah. I mean, like, this is just what we all love to do, isn't it?
I
This is
know,
why we're in
absolutely.
sewing in the first place, so we can
Yeah,
have all this lovely fabric in our house. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, massive thanks to everyone that joined live as well and added
Yeah.
your comments and questions for Rachel. We had a few other ones that I didn't mention and put up. Patricia says that they love you, and you got
Oh,
some compliments about your new hair as well. So
oh yes.
yeah,
The
you've
red is gone.
got some great fans out there, Rachel.
Oh,
Um,
thank you, everybody.
yeah, I'll be back next week at 8 p.m. again with Lisa Bauer, who runs the Last Sewer Standing Challenge. If you are interested in challenging yourself to a complete ban on all sewing supplies and see how long you can last on that. So,
Oh, that's
yeah, that'll
good
be really
fun.
interesting to hear about how she set up that challenge and all of how it went this year and what's new for 2024 version. So, yeah, see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.